Ignis and its Wraith counterpart have been among most popular weapons in Wolframe, and the reason behind that is twofold. For one, it has to do with how wide the beam is with Ignis. It covers a significant area, which is valuable in such a horde shooter game, as well as the looter shooter part where chances are you'll break more containers with that. For two, at the master rank at which you unlock these two weapons, there's very little competition in terms of just how easy it becomes to deal with many enemies at once. With innate punch through that's infinite through enemies, players quickly learn to line them up. And it's not that hard considering that a big portion of the game is just a bunch of corridors. Here I wanted to take a look at how we start building that weapon and how that build evolves as we progress through the game. I tried to summarize it in 3 general builds, but overall there are variations. Mostly for the earliest build, where it largely depends on which mods you've got and which ones can you rank up. Heavy Caliber being the main outlier there because it requires a high amount of endo and credits to rank it up, and it's a mod that's pretty much only being used on Ignis. Good substitute for it is probably Vigilante Armaments, because more multi-shot is always good. And if you get your hands on it early on, it's a pretty cheap mod to rank up, because it's a common mod and it only has 5 ranks. So on our level 1 build, aka we've just got Ignis Wraith, we're keeping it clean. No Exiles mods, just plain and simple critical build with viral and fire rate. Last mod being an odd one, Heavy Caliber. Because of the argument that negative accuracy does help with the beam damage and the spread of how multi-shot projectiles travel with that negative accuracy, there is a good argument that on Ignis Wraith, Heavy Caliber is more desirable than Serration. But if you combine those two, you have more than enough damage to clear any mission in Star Chart. Viral escalates damage to health, so that is your ticket to sortie missions. But there, you might need a carrier sentinel with you, because you will be spending more ammo on some enemies. Ignis is not a great single target damage weapon, so for the sake of your loadout, it might be a good choice to bring some high damage weapon in your pocket. Level 2 build is where we're committing to the weapon. Exiles Adapter adds more, and we're mixing in some more corrupted mods. Still keeping Serration and Heavy Caliber and adding tons of damage, but this time we're using Viral Acceleration that reduces damage a little bit but adds a lot more fire rate. In such scenario where we're adding tons of damage, such trade-off is worth it, especially when on top of that we're sacrificing some fire rate too to add more critical chance with critical delay. And the point of that is that Ignis Wraith has above average critical damage, so the more crits we push, the merrier. Sinister Reach is quite noticeable, as with it you can basically reach everything in your everyday engagement range. What you see here in the video might not be a big difference compared to a level 1 build, but chances are people will rank up some mods when going from level 1 build to level 2, so that will be a huge boost, but more Forma is required. Note that 10 Forma used on my Ignis Wraith is not the actual requirement for that build. That's just me changing builds over time and even adding 2 Forma just before recording this video so I can fit all 3 builds on one weapon. Now, level 3 build is where we're about to mess some stuff up. Since primary arcanes add plus 360% damage, there's no need for Serration or Heavy Caliber. Instead, we're gonna go for Galvanized Aptitude. That mod is basically a condition overload for primary weapons. Still sticking to viral plus heat output on our Ignis means that we only have 2 stacks for our aptitude. But when we add Hunter Munitions, that's a 3rd stack and total plus 240% damage from Galvanized mod. Here we're using Galvanized Multishot as well because it's an upgrade and primed cryo rounds for extra damage. Apart from that, we are sticking to other things we had in our level 2 build. Critical stuff, fire rate, and viral. The random orange crits you've been seeing throughout the video is just Vigilante mods on my Sentinel weapon. Not necessary nor too helpful, but nice to see. This build can work in Steel Path, though low base damage means that time to kill a single target for this weapon will always be lower than for most. But it's when we see a stacked room where this weapon shines. Another thing that comes with very low base damage and us using viral plus heat and galvanized aptitude to bring it up is that it always takes time to scale it up. Initial hits on heavy enemies barely tickle them, but with each status you put on, the damage goes up. You'll often notice acceleration in how enemy health gets depleted, but that's the nature of the weapon. I always say that headshots help a lot with weapons like these, as headshot multiplier is 2x for most enemies. But for comfort of your loadout, it's probably better to have some one-shot weapon in your pocket, like Redeemer. If you're here and you're watching this video and you can only get regular Ignis, don't worry, you will get there soon enough. And when it comes to building difference, it's only critical mods. Regular Ignis is not built as a critical weapon. With it, obviously, hunter munitions is a no-go, because that relies on critical hits, but other things still apply. Damage, multi-shot, viral, fire rate. And that is more than good enough to take you far enough to get that Ignis Wraith. I wouldn't let the video go without some overkill build. Figured would go with the obvious Mirage Eclipse and let 5 beams of death wipe some steel path rooms. And it does when you catch the crowd. I still prefer having that Redeemer Prime in my back pocket for heavy dudes, but this is hella strong. Apart from a few Grenier enemies using Ignis, some of them for some reason having Ignis that shoots cold, I only saw one Corpus unit that uses some sort of Corpus flamethrower, which sure as hell feels like it hits harder than Ignis. So maybe that will be a weapon to bring down Ignis Wraith. Meanwhile, this weapon did endure all the power creep D threw at it in the past couple of years. Thank you for watching the video. Comment, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.